hope you all are doing well. This is the Land of Enlightenment podcast, and I am your host, Oscar Duran. This episode of Land of Enlightenment is brought to you by Zendo. Zendo is a local coffee shop here in Albuquerque. You can check them out at zendocoffee.com. You can buy whole beans for order via email. You do have to have a grinder for grinding them up yourselves, or if you just want to support a local business, make sure to go to zendocoffee.com, buy some swag as well. You will get a ton of really great quality coffee, as well as awesome and really, really sweet merch. This episode is also brought to you by Lavender and Lee. Lavender and Lee is a custom jewelry shop. You can find them on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/lavender, A-N-D, Lee, Lee. So check them out. I think you can get a promo discount of 10% if you type in podcast 10 at the end of or when you're checking out. I hope you all enjoy and let me know what you think. Remember that I love you and that there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Bye. All right, cool. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You're one of my previous guests and friends and listeners' suggestion. So again, thank you. Do you want to really quickly introduce yourself and let me know what you do?
Sure. My name's Jarryd St. I do a lot, but for work, I'm a math teacher of 6th and 7th graders. And
Okay.
I know you because of our mutual friend, Tara.
Yes, that's pretty much it. And we've just kind of run into each other at a couple of events that Tara has had. So I'm glad we finally get to meet. Tara's been trying to get me to talk to you for a while now. So this is a good as opportunity as any, I guess, when you're locked up in your house. So we'll start with the math teacher because you said you do a lot of things, but let's start with the math teacher. What is that like right now?
It's definitely different. We have shifted the district, Albuquerque Public Schools, the district I am a part of, shifted to online learning, what they are calling a continuous learning plan.
Mm-hmm.
So face-to-face in the classroom, we have scheduled meeting times. For math, that's twice a week for 1 hour each of those sessions. So instead of the, let's see here, normally I was getting 250 minutes of class time a week, broken up into 20 to 25 student chunks, and now I am getting 2 hours or 120 minutes with over 120 students. So what I am noticing is my ratio of teacher to student time is way down.
Yeah.
I am able to connect with every single one of my students like I was in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
We're coping though. We're still doing work, still learning math, still looking to get better and better.
So are you, I guess, do you feel like the students are really learning through this at-home situation, or are you just trying to maintain at this point?
I think there's a combination of both.
Okay.
I do still see students learning. I have office hours daily.
Yeah.
So even though we don't have class daily, I still get to connect with some students. And there are some students who come to those optional office hours every single day. We're working through problems every day, and I'm seeing progress. The huge difference is that I don't have the same opportunity to connect, and not every kid has the same opportunity to connect with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of technology, access to information, access to resources. So I'm seeing a lot fewer students, but the students that I do see on a daily basis, I am seeing the progress. So generally, I would say the aggregate is down.
Okay.
I am still seeing that happening.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty interesting topic there as far as resources go. Where are you a teacher at when you're doing face-to-face teaching?
I'm at Jefferson Middle School, so that's very near the University of New Mexico here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, I know it. My son's gonna go there next year.
Oh, sweet. Is he going to be
Yeah,
a grader?
sixth grader. Yeah, so you may be his teacher.
It's true. It's true. I have a couple sections of sixth grade next year, so I'm hoping that I have one good connection with a parent right away.
Well, there we go. You got one right here.
Love it.
No, I think it's very interesting. I mean, as far as the resources go, that's it's that school's known for, I guess it's a public school, but it's math and science programs, right?
Uh,
Is that true?
yeah. So I don't know that we have math or science focus, but we definitely have good teachers there and good programs for that. So I'm definitely proud to work there. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. And do you see? I don't know how far the Jefferson district spreads, as far as like the area of Albuquerque goes, but I mean, it's the area itself is pretty affluent, I would say, close to the university. But I'm sure there's children who live in apartment complexes who don't really have a lot, or maybe don't have as many resources as other children. Are you seeing kind of the divide along those socioeconomic lines, in your opinion?
Certainly. So I'm definitely seeing the kids with a lot of parent support and
Mhm.
resources online more. I'm seeing their faces more. I'm seeing their
Mhm.
activity through our online lessons more. And the kids who don't have that parental support don't see as much. And
Mhm.
uh, address what you're talking about a little bit in terms of the spread for Jefferson District. I think
Yeah.
there is a big mixture.
Mhm.
There, the UNM community.
Mhm.
There's also, it's a school with almost 900 kids.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of the biggest middle schools in Albuquerque, and we get a wide variety of kids with a wide variety of needs. So I think the district has tried to mitigate the disparity, but there are just so many things ingrained. There's so much systemic disparity.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Every kid is going to get what they need.
And that happens at every school, right? In every
That's true.
city, in every part of town, which is unfortunate. But teachers are doing their best, which is we appreciate everything that you're doing as well. It's a big deal.
Thanks.
How do you foresee things kind of going in the fall? Yeah, I'm asking as a parent, but also kind of as somebody who's studied a little bit of policy and understanding also, um, having read some studies that show, or information that show, that this is going to pick back up in the fall. Has there been any discussion around that?
Not for us. What are your impressions so far with
Hmm.
and it's like school gatherings generally?
I
What
think more than anything, the thinking and the reasoning, or I mean, the logic behind all of this is that it's going to be cyclical, in the sense that it's going to pick back up in the fall. Along they're kind of going along the lines of the Spanish flu, in terms of just how things happened, right? So it was first year it happened, kind of dipped a little bit during the summer. Second year was actually the worst, and then by the time, like, we started approaching the third year, that's when everything just kind of fell off and it was fine. So the thinking is that this is going to pick back up, and that people are not quarantining, or we're not staying in quarantine for long enough. I just read something today that said that after Georgia's alleviating on Friday of everything, they had a spike in cases. So, it's just people are trying to get out too soon, stuff like that. So, I foresee potentially having to do this again sometime in the winter, because I don't think it's going away right away. Right, the vaccine's coming. It's apparently going to take a year and a half. So, I don't know if people are preparing. It doesn't seem like they are, or people are even thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's as a school district, as a any sort of institution, it's hard to plan out that far,
Yeah.
especially when it's all brand new. But I bet you're right. Like as soon as, or if there were any restrictions lifted too early, that would just lead to another spike in cases. Like if
Hmm.
it's fully eradicated, it's going to spread as soon as there's a lot of contact between people. So
Right, right. I mean,
it's to me that there could be a resurgence.
oh, for sure. But do you feel like it's going to impact the students? I mean, this is already impacting them, right? Are you
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah, the staff,
how's it
no
gonna
doubt.
impact your teaching as far as like everybody being on the same page, you know? Are people gonna get passed to the second grade? Are people gonna get held back? How are you gonna measure that? Do you know?
So
A
in
lot of questions you may not know the answer to.
I know some of the answers. In middle
Okay.
school, I know that there is very minimal holding back or
Okay.
uh, like having kids repeat grades
Yeah.
because not everybody can be held to the same standard right now. We
Yeah.
just don't have the same criteria for every kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what I am planning for in the upcoming school year is to roll out all of my online resources very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that that's going to be a part of my routine in the classroom as long as it can be. And then if there is a resurgence, we will already have those tools established and we will have this fresh memory to draw
Mm-hmm.
on for effective online teaching practices.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's a different world we live in, right? So it's going to be a weird couple of years. Hopefully, I would like for this to kind of die out here in 2020, but you never know, right?
I would
Um,
love that too. I would love for it to be gone. I would love to be with my friends. I would love to be out in public,
yeah.
to go out to eat. Just
So what are you
all
doing?
sounds great.
What are you doing right now? Are you just kind of hanging out at home?
Lots of hanging out at home.
Yeah.
Um, Me and Tara are holding down this fort and just trying to find routines. So that's how I stayed sane.
Okay.
Pandemic two was
Uh-huh.
having solid routines and like chunking my time well. And so I'm still trying to do that. Just have activities in my day to day life that I can improve at and get better at, even if I'm in the comfort of my own home the entire time. Lots of patio workouts, lots of reading, lots of
Okay.
playing guitar, lots of um, probably still too much like looking at screens, looking at my phone, looking at my computer screen. So trying to minimize that and fill my life with the other things. What have you found to be effective
You know,
ways?
for me, I don't have another person. I have my kids, right? So I'll have my kids half the week. They left to their mothers for the remainder of the week. Today actually, and so I'll pick them back up this weekend. And so it's half the week that they're with me, and it's interesting because while they're here, we're in a routine, and it's kind of exhausting. But I have to have like a plan. Helping them. I mean, I'm working full time. I'm doing podcasting. I'm also helping them with their work, checking answers, doing all that stuff, right? Trying to be the best resources to them I can. So that takes up a lot of my time. But then the second they're gone, it's a lot of just empty space and silence. So
Yeah,
I fall back on exercising, which is taking up my time. I like to run, so just and I live near the irrigation district here in the North Valley, so I'll go for a run and do that, and catching up on different TV shows. Right, I would like to be reading more, but I can't seem to pull myself together enough to be able to read. I don't know what's going on, but like I got, I got a degree in literature and I love reading, and for some reason my mind's just too preoccupied with things. I feel like because I'm stuck in this one place for so long and I'm go 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 constantly working, I want to do something mindless, and all the readings are very much something very joyful, and I always enjoy it and I always feel fulfilled after doing it. It's it's for some reason I have this hurdle and it's more of a task, right? It's I'm actively doing something versus passively, and I kind of need some more passive stuff in my life right now.
yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like it takes a lot of discipline for me to really dive into a book, to
Hmm.
read an extra chapter, to even read an extra page or two, especially compared to like doing another Instagram scroll or
Mm-hmm.
like doing another Reddit scroll. Like that's that mindless, doesn't take discipline. The platform is built for you to do that. It taps to the instant gratification part of your psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
reading does not necessarily do that, I think. And that's why I mention it as a practice.
Yeah.
I have a lot of room for growth there too. I don't have the attention span that I would like for that. I think it would be great to be able to spend an hour and a half straight or 2 hours reading instead of hopping onto the phone, instead of hopping on the phone. But it's like it takes
Yeah.
discipline, and right now like there's a balance of trying to just like get through it and feel good and not feel super anxious. And so it's just kind of trying to balance that. So I hear you. I
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know what I found is that because I've never really been much of a reader to begin with, so forcing myself into a literature degree was a big part of like learning that process myself. And at that point, I mean, it was a graduate school, and so I had to sit down and read full books in one sitting a lot of the time, and that was very difficult, right? But it's something, it's a practice that I don't want to repeat again, as far as, you know, sitting and reading a book in one full sitting. I'd like to sit and digest what I've read in little chunks. So I'll read maybe 30 minutes, most 60 minutes at a time. And don't pressure myself to have to finish, right? Because I'm not reading it like other people. I'm not reading at the same capacity or ability as other people. Even though, you know, yeah, I can read a lot of very dense things, it doesn't mean that's how I enjoy it. So you just kind of like have to figure out how you do it, and how you take stories in, right? If you enjoy stories, even maybe you're just not a reader, and that's okay.
Sure,
You
sure.
know.
And
So
is it a skill that you want to get better at? Are you
yeah,
where
yeah.
you're at? Like that sounds very individual, and it sounds like me and you are kind of on the same page, but that doesn't mean it's right for anybody else.
No, 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 no. So no, my son. He's more of a math and science guy. My daughter is more of literature. She's also, I mean, kicks butt in every other subject, but she's definitely the bookworm when it comes to the two of them. So I'm trying to develop that in them, the literature, as much as I can, because I think it was being coming from an immigrant family. I realized early on that I didn't have that discipline built into me, and didn't have that kind of that fostering of enjoyment for literature, for sitting down and reading a book. And because I learned that later in life, I found that, you know, the not to say that people aren't smart if they don't read, but I feel like a lot of the people that I related to the most, and that I was really close to, and wanted to kind of admire, were very much the way they were because of how much reading they did. There's so much power in literature. There's so many amazing written things out there, right? Where when you're reading, you're digesting it yourself, you're deconstructing it and thinking critically about it yourself. Whereas just if you're watching it through TV or whatever, it's being done for you. That's a lot of the time. So again, it's the passive thing. So I'm really trying to develop that in my children, because I do feel like it does develop that critical thinking component, and just like, oh, what does that mean? The way the words, you know, the story is written, how many beats are given between this, if the way that, you know. And I've had writers on here, and there's stories are so interesting, you know. And within math, even, like, there's different things that you can look at, and seeing how my children are learning how to do different, you know, different things with different problems is very interesting as well. And it talks to you, right? The world around us is mathematics. So, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. I mean, you're the math teacher, so I'm preaching to the choir. What else? So going back, what else do you do? You said you do a lot of things. Tell me.
Yeah, so I mentioned some of the like things that fill my day: music,
Mhm.
reading, watching screens, and
Yeah. I mean, but really, like, what's your like best hobby? Like, what do you really enjoy doing?
So outside of quarantine, outside of a pandemic that keeps everybody in their house, I really do love uh, physical activity, especially sports. Like I love playing team sports, basketball,
Oh,
and
really? Okay.
polo is my favorite sport. I played in college, and
Water polo?
yep, and so
Where'd you play?
obviously gone here at UNM.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, and I just love having a social reason to get active.
Mhm.
I have been running a lot more now because I don't have that. I ran before, did yoga, swam, um, rock climbed. That's another one.
Tara got me into that one.
Yeah, yeah. But we were going before the gym closed,
I
and
know. And isn't that a bummer? Like for somebody who's so active, being restricted in the activities you can do. I mean, because climbing was a big one as well. I really like going to a certain gym that the workouts that I love there, and it's all so restricted. So I feel like, yeah, it's insane. I mean, my body is lacking it.
I've
Absolutely.
certainly had to get creative. I've
Yeah.
had creative, but I try to do something every day.
Okay.
And it's pretty limited to either a backyard body workout, some yoga, or a run. And it's like all I got right now. I ordered a basketball, but I think it,
Do you have the hoop?
no, but there's a hoop nearby. So
Okay, I was like, well, you got one thing. You ordered
yeah.
a basketball like online. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And I can practice my handles in the backyard.
Okay. Dang, man. You're making it sound like you do this pretty often. Do you get out there? I mean, before all this, where would you go play?
There were a couple of gyms that I would play at. Played in the county recreation league and played with friends a couple times a week. Just just however much I could, however much fit into the schedule between friends and other activities.
Interesting. Are you from Albuquerque?
Yeah, so I went to Bandelier Elementary, Wilson Middle School, Highland High School, UNM. I'm a New Mexico public school kid.
I'm sorry about that, man. I can relate. What year did you graduate?
2010 from Highland.
2010 from Highland. Okay. The Hornets. I mean,
The
that's
Hornets.
that's an interesting part of town. So you kind of stayed in that same area, right? I mean, you didn't
That's
go to
true.
Wilson, but you're teaching over at Jefferson, which is pretty close.
Yeah, so I've kind of moved around in my teaching, but it's nice to end up kind of near my family and in this neighborhood for a little while at least. But
Hmm.
I've been if you're saying you're North Valley, I taught at Garfield my very first year, so
Oh
that's like
yeah, it's down the street from here. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and then taught at South Valley Academy. So shifted down the valley a year later. After that, I came up to Jefferson.
Moving on up, huh?
Just moving, just moving, and a lot of it has depended on like my physical location where I'm living. It's been a huge factor for that too.
Yeah,
Just
no, I mean,
like
teaching,
commuting.
you want to be close to your job, and I mean, it's such an interesting thing. Did you always think you were going to be a teacher?
No,
So what
actually,
happened? Yeah,
yeah, that's a fun story to share on a with your listeners.
yeah, let's do it.
I didn't I didn't know what I wanted to do going into college,
Okay.
and I just knew that my parents wanted me to go to college. So college said I wanted to do engineering because I was good at math. Started doing engineering, didn't talk to anybody about the depression and the anxiety that I was feeling.
Mm,
Kind of I wouldn't say I spiraled, but like for me, I like had a really rough go for about a year and a half, and then I uh, just like wasn't doing well in classes, didn't know what I wanted to do, shifted from engineering to physics, took a semester off, and I started coaching water polo in my sophomore year of college. And that showed me that education was a possible path for me. I like started getting good at that. I started not only coaching a club team around town, but also doing Olympic development programs up at the Olympic Training Center. I was really in it. I was learning a lot there, and I have a very distinct memory of teaching one of my kids a type of shot, like a way to score a goal. Like, hey, work for you. Try this, practice it, change this little thing. And then in a game the next day, they used it and they scored, and they like swam back to the side and they were like, Coach Jarryd, did you see that? That was awesome. And I was like, whoa, I taught that kid that and they used it. So cool. I want that to happen all the time.
Okay.
And then I had a partner who helped me get like really motivated back in school, and I started doing a math education program. One of the first classes I took when I came back was my educational psychology class, which taught me about learning. And so that a switch for me. I was like, oh, like this is how you learn. This is how you acquire knowledge. This is how you schematize it. This is how you pull it out of your brain and use it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Like now I can give that knowledge to other people and I can ask them to pull it out. And not only that, I can also share that construct, like how you actually learn. So upon entering the education program, I had a huge change of heart for my own education. Trying hard in school to learn. I started succeeding. I started like doing really well. And that was about the time that I met Tara in our educational psychology research group. Me even more about learning and what people look for and what a valid or reliable assessment does and how you can use that data to direct your instruction.
Yeah.
I was just like really feeling good, feeling passionate about that. And I was still good at math. That didn't like all of a sudden go away. So I knew that I wanted to do education. I knew I was good at math. And the other side of that was I knew there was always a market, at least in Albuquerque, for math teachers. I knew that getting a job English teacher or an art teacher, any other teacher would be challenging, but getting a job as a math teacher was going to be very doable. So I took a lot of classes, took a lot of education classes, got my degree, graduated with a license, and then immediately got my first job at Garfield.
That's awesome, man. So you finished so it's a teaching degree then. It's a math, specifically a math teaching degree. Is that what it was?
Yep. So it was a Bachelor of Science Education with a concentration in math.
It's so interesting. So this is your dream now. Is that the case? Do you feel like it is, or do you feel like you're pretty open to where life takes you?
It's a really good question. I ask myself that one a lot. So I've done a lot of research into why we teach math the way we teach it, and if there are other ways to teach it better. And without diving into it, the way that we teach math right now is a commercial administrative approach, which ultimately benefits capitalism. It's the administration of capitalism reinforces the status quo. So
can you elaborate on that before you digress too much?
Okay, so if we're teaching kids counting and adding and subtracting adding and subtracting decimals, dividing with decimals, all this stuff. It's all about resource allocation. It's all about money. It's all about the administration of these systems of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many resources do you need in order to do this thing? So almost every question revolves around that, like, resource allocation, that resource extraction, that like consolidation of power and money.
So the problems themselves are based around that,
Yeah,
set in that
next,
context. Yeah.
next time you look at a math problem,
Okay.
just think about that. So when you're talking about how much wrapping paper does this person need to cover the surface of this thing, it's like, okay, why? Like, why do we need to know that? It's like, well, so that we know the cost, so that we know how much to produce, so that we know how much people are consuming. It's all.
I never thought about that. That's so interesting.
Yep. And that's every single part of math that we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Up to infinitesimal calculus, up to like every advanced math that people have come up with.
I mean, that's so interesting. I'm trying to like think of a way that to teach it. I mean, you obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm assuming you do know a way to not teach it that way. And what is that? Because I can't think of it.
Maybe. So
Okay.
there are a couple other approaches that I've read about. One is artisanal mathematics, which is like trade math. So electricians and carpenters and plumbers need to know how to bend conduit or like cut stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right, so that the structure comes out correct, so that the thing that you're building or the thing that you're creating is what you want it to be. So there's a mathematic approach that doesn't necessarily involve the resource part of it, but still involves like building something functional. So that is one approach that I've read about. And then the other is like a critical approach to mathematics, where it's not just commercial administrative, it's not just artisanal, but you're constantly reflecting on, why am I using this math? How is this reinforcing systems? How is this breaking down systems? So to me, that way sounds like a huge combination of the current math system that we're using and a humanities, like some kind of social.
Right.
It's like a study of how society works. It's a critical approach to how society works from a math perspective. And that would be the other way.
Yeah. I mean,
More statistics heavy.
I would love that myself, coming from primarily humanities background. But I feel like it would benefit a person to definitely have that background to begin with. So how are you trying in any way to kind of develop that in your students now? Given, I mean, obviously, if you had the ideal situation, you were in a classroom, are you trying to implement that?
Definitely. So one of the tools I'm using right now is describing the system that I described to you, holding my values about capitalism or how we should be using that, and talking to kids about we're why I'm teaching the things that I'm teaching within this commercial administrative framework. So many times I'll hear kids say, why do we need this? I don't need this. And my answer isn't because you'll use it for your next math class. My answer is, and this is a big tool for me, I say code switching. So I say, do you know what code switching is? And they say, no, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to say code switching is when, like, you're talking to your mom, you sound one way, versus when you're talking to your friends, you sound another way, versus when you're talking to your teachers or the principal, a different way. You change the formality, you change the words you use. And that's what you're doing in this math class. We're learning how to do these things, not necessarily so you can do it in your next math class, but so that you can code switch and participate in this broken system when you need to, but also know that this isn't necessarily the right way to do it. There are also other ways to do it. We are doing this way because it's the way society operates right now. Looking at chipping that away. So how can you chip that away while doing it, while you're code switching? So
that's awesome, man. That's
that's
really
the way
cool.
that I incorporate it. But I would not claim to be an expert on that yet. In year 3 of my teaching, I have so much room for growth in terms of being a critical educator.
Mm-hmm.
I get by on the evaluations. The principal would say, you're doing a good job. You have all the right stuff on the walls. You interact with kids correctly. But I have a lot of room for growth in helping kids break down the system while still being
part of it
and competent participants
existing within it, right? It's such an interesting thing that's which I admire. I wish you were my math teacher when I was growing up. Only because in hindsight, it's 2020. Only because I feel the same way and I believe the same, very similar things that you do. And I think it's important. You said one specific word. Do you flat out call it a broken system to your students?
Yes.
Nice. Well, good, because it is. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. So where does all this kind of thinking and these beliefs, where do these come from for you?
Probably reading and interacting with the people that I interact with. The people that are closest to me of that critical mindset have like radical background or the acquisition of knowledge. I don't like a lot of the people that I would call my closest friends. Like, I wouldn't say we're raised with a radical background, but read and have learned and have opened their own eyes through their own work and gotten to the point they can like effectively criticize these systems. And so myself with those people, I have had partners in the past that have been massive influences on me in terms of my own masculinity and patriarchy, in terms of like race politics, in terms of like how I operate within the capitalist framework generally. So I'd say it's the people around me that are influencing me, my friends especially. I wouldn't say that came from my family a lot. That's from my friends.
Yeah.
And it's from reading critical literature, like People's History of the United States. And that was a huge influence for me. Like, oh wow, the way we're taught history is total bullshit. Like,
absolutely.
We're colonizers. Like, we're
we colonize ourselves, right?
Imperial. Yeah. We'll bomb our own citizens. Like, we will literally bomb our own citizens in order to keep the status quo. Like, and so reading stuff about restorative justice.
Do you feel like there's change anytime soon?
I think there's a big monster we're fighting against, but actually me and Tara have talked a lot about transformational change versus incremental change.
Okay.
For years, I just and I still get this feeling a lot of times. That I want massive change. I want to burn it down. I want everything gone, and then we build up from the ground with what would actually work for everybody, what would actually be equitable, what would actually work.
Okay.
And it's just not always possible to experience that big of a cataclysm, or at least to like cause that big of a change by yourself. And so the best that I can do as an individual is to push, put energy into incremental change, into change that helps, pushes things in a positive direction, but doesn't necessarily upend everything. And that still hurts my heart sometimes.
I mean, yeah, it's right. We want it. We want what we want, and we want it now. In reality, it's gonna be generational. Kind of, it's gonna take time. And then we got to be realistic. And what can I do? So you sound like your feet are firmly planted on the ground, in the sense that you understand that you can only do what you can in your corner of the world, and hopefully you can influence others to maybe do the same thing. But it's going to take the collective to really be able to do this. Because the idea of an actual revolution is just, it's very unlikely, unfortunately. There's too much kind of stacked up against us, and we exist and we've been socialized within this system and institution, and it's very difficult for us to imagine anything other than this, right? One of my favorite statements is constructive disobedience. The guy's name is Giannis. He's a Grecian economist, and he's all about he loves the idea of the revolution, and he actively protests. He was trying to bring down the EU. He was trying to do a lot of stuff, right? He got elected to the parliament, the European Union Parliament, and he was highly criticized and not very well liked because of his anti whatever beliefs about capitalism and everything.
Anti-institution.
Yeah, exactly. So, but his idea is that if you're gonna, it's good to disobey. It's perfect. I mean, you should do that on a daily basis, but you got to do so constructively. And if you're going to do so constructively, that what that means is that you got to come to the table with a solution, because once there's a vacuum, anything can just swoop in, right? So you got to come to the table and be like, okay, how are we going to do this? And once this is gone, what are we going to replace it with, right? Because something's got to replace it. And then two, it's very unfortunate and it sucks, but the only really real way to do it is in and against. So by being part of the system from inside and out, right? Because you can throw rocks at the glass house, but it's going to come down. You're not going to be able to convince anybody who's in that house that you were the good guy, right? So you got to sway them from the inside out. And it's very difficult to do. So it's an uphill battle in general. It's a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of people. I have the hope, but I don't have no illusion that it's going to happen in my lifetime, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
I tend to agree. Oscar, the thing that you're saying that sticks with me,
sure,
that really resonates is how disobedience is appropriate, disobedience is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And in the institution of public education in America, we do not teach that. We do not teach that disobedience is okay. In fact, we teach that compliance is the norm. Like you must comply or else you'll get your ass kicked out of school.
Right.
You won't get an education. We'll send you home, whether or not like it'll obviously it won't, but like, we teach that compliance is being good in school, not that like a critical mindset, challenging systems, acknowledging valid problems. That's not a positive skill. That's whoa, like you're bringing up a lot of stuff. Like I don't know how we're going to solve all these problems.
Yeah,
and that's what they teach. That's unfortunately what they teach educators too. It's like comply with the rubric, have the stuff on your wall, treat kids this way, like, discipline kids this way, follow the ladder of consequences this way. Right. And if you don't, you get punished as an educator. If you call out the bad system, we're going to say that you're a squeaky wheel rather than addressing the systemic problem. So I really appreciate that idea that like disobedience is appropriate, but it's necessary. Like that's what we should expect. That's what I do as a radical educator, is like I teach kids that like disobedience is okay. If I'm doing something and it's bullshit, like call me on it. And if I can't defend it, then I'm going to change it. And defend it, then there's a reason. Is there a reason that you can't run out of the class during class? Yeah. Safety of you. I need to know where you're at and to get the education. Good. I can justify that rule. So you stay in the classroom. In your seat, don't disrupt other kids. Is there a reason for that? Is that reasonable? Yeah, great. I give you detention because you talked during class. Is that reasonable? No, it's not. So if you're like, wait, that's bull, mister. Like, why are you going to do that? Then I'm thinking to myself, wait, is that? And hopefully what I can model, what I can teach is acknowledging when like your rationale breaks down
Yeah.
and there's something better out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree with you in all of that. And there's, and then something that came to mind is the idea that you said you're the squeaky wheel. You get labeled as certain things as being disobedient to you, as good or bad. So the way, I love to handle those objections that to my behavior or to whatever, I mean, being labeled angry. I'm just like, I'm angry because I'm calling attention to this issue. Right. Like
I
that's
might be angry about
right.
it.
Like maybe I'm not angry. I'm actually fine, but you think I'm angry because I'm consistent in my speech and in my talking about this issue. Right. Or whatever, or what's good or bad. And I'm going back to the good and bad is like, specifically the a piece of literature I read in grad school called what's a good woman is, and it was referring to lesbianism. It was a queer studies class in Latin America, and it was essentially the definition of what a good person is, right? Specifically in this case, it was a woman. It is a person who does this, and this. And when you actually define it, what is a good, what is bad, what is angry, what are these things that you're calling me? It sounds ludicrous because your definition, if you're just using a blanket word, but you're really getting down to the root of what you're actually calling me or you're actually meaning, it sounds insane. So one of my favorite kind of responses to an objection like that is like, well, define this word. What do you mean by good? Like, what is good? Right? And then they immediately know that they've been caught, or they fumble over the words because they start trying to define it, and they realize that their definition of it is insane. It's absolutely insane, and it doesn't make sense in this world, right?
Yeah, I think
So,
something that people would benefit a lot from is a willingness to say, I don't know. You were to say,
yeah,
why is that good?
yeah,
And I said,
yeah.
huh, I don't know. I don't know that it is. Like, what
Hmm.
a response. What a great way to build consensus.
Well, there's fear, right? People are scared. People are scared of being wrong, because if you look wrong, if you're wrong, you look weak, right? And that's deconstructing masculinity and what it means to be a man or a person or somebody who's intelligent. Like most of some of the smartest people I know will say, I can't speak to that because that's not my area of expertise, right? And I don't know. Most of my professors would say that, and those are the smartest people I know that I would look up to. They lead with it. Like, first and foremost, it's all speculation because I don't know. So based on heuristics, let me tell you something then. But yeah, there is this idea of fear of looking a certain way, right? And it's imagery and ego, and getting away and understanding your fears and getting away from that ego, and maybe understanding why do I feel the way I do? Why am I scared to look wrong? Why do I really just not know? And is that okay? Yeah, it's always okay to not know, right? And
Yeah,
it doesn't make you weak. It gives you an opportunity to learn and
I
rent.
agree with that. I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think there like to build on what you're saying, there are lots of appeals,
Hmm.
like in that appeals to authority.
Yeah.
People are like, oh well, because at least in my line of work, it's like because I'm the principal, like I know that this is best, or
Right. Right.
like some
Authority.
or
Yeah.
teaching for 20 years, like I know that this is the best way to do it, and that immediately dismisses any other argument or conversation. Like just
Right.
that.
Just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean it's the right way or the best way. It just means that we haven't tried any other new ways. And it doesn't mean the world hasn't changed. It just, it has. So we maybe need to explore some new ways. But people get stuck in that, and they identify themselves with this way of being or doing things, and they take it personally and they make it personal, and it's ingrained in them. It's difficult. It's very difficult, and it hurts to be wrong. It sucks. Nobody likes it. So whenever somebody would tease me about, are you like upset that you got that wrong? I was like, yeah, of course I was. Like, you wouldn't be? Yeah, it sucks. It's never fun to be wrong, but I'm willing to admit that I was. And
Yeah.
right, but um it takes a lot for people to be able to do that, and it takes a lot of it has to be a willingness, and then it takes a lot of failure, right? The ability to, to be able to fail over and over and over again and learn that it's not going to hurt you.
Right. That what we call in educational psychology the growth mindset.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Get
growth.
better at anything with practice, resilience, and help with the strategies.
Right, and then any growth, just whether it's in education or in life, it's gonna hurt, right? You can quote all the cheesy things about like seeds and growing and bursting at the seams and destroying themselves to grow and become something beautiful, but it's absolutely true, right? You're only if nothing is. So one of those cheesy ones that I really really enjoy is that a comfort place is or yeah, comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there, right? And it is a beautiful place because you're safe, and then there's nothing happening, and you're sheltered, and you know what's going to happen next, and
Yeah.
you're in control.
Yeah, you
You're
need it
absolutely in
sometimes.
control. But if you want to grow, you need to step out of that. You just need to, and it's going to suck, and it's going to hurt, and you may get your heart broken, you may get physically hurt, but I can guarantee you that on the other side of this, you're going to be a different person, and hopefully a better person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I agree that learning is a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we can do as parents and educators generally
Yeah.
to just encourage people to embrace those like frustrating feelings or the like what you're calling negative, but embrace those feelings as like, wow, like, yes, this is hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Learning, yes, like, okay, I'm gonna be patient with it. And then like you said,
Yeah.
when I come out the other side, I'm gonna know how to do this thing.
Well, it's redefining it, right? Instead of being like, this is a
Exactly.
negative experience, being like, wow, this is an opportunity to grow. And it's
Exactly.
this exact same thing, but you're just redefining it and changing what does good, what does bad, what does angry, what does the squeaky wheel actually mean, and giving it a good meaning and making it and reappropriating it, right? And making it a good thing. Um, But yeah, man, and your students are lucky to have you. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hope that Noah gets to have you as a teacher next year.
Thank you.
But yeah. I mean, I appreciate you coming on here, having this great discussion with me. Hope to be able to break bed with you someday and hang out and actually talk. Um, yeah. So again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. I'm going to
Absolutely.
hit stop on the record button and we can chat for a second here.
Oscar, thank you so much for having me.